Okay guys, welcome. I want you to know it just took me 5 entire minutes to do a thumbnail. I'm actually going to die of heat exhaustion. But we did it. We got the thumbnail and we are ready to go. So we're here, if you guys can probably tell by the title, this is going to be my July, August, how is it September? Oh my god, wrap up. It's a wrap up, y'all. It is a wrap up. If I'm correct, I think I read 30 books this month. Okay, I read 30 books this month. Not my best, not my worst, but still pretty good. I thought I did a lot worse. I thought I read like 18 books. So simply, I am doing great. That equaled 10,755 pages. I read 23 emotional books, 16 lighthearted, 15 funny, 6 dark, 5 tense, 5 mysterious, 5 hopeful, 4 reflective, 3 adventurous, 1 sad, and 1 inspiring. I read mostly medium-paced books, 83%, with 13% being fast and 3% being slow. 80% of the books that I read were between 300 and 500 pages. I read 90% fiction. I've continued being very much in my romance girl era, and I've read 19 romances, 16 contemporary, 4 thriller, 3 LGBTQ, and 3 literary, 1 young adult, 1 mystery, 1 memoir, 1 fantasy, or 2 of all of those, and then 1 of the following: dystopian, art, magical realism, sci-fi, music, and history. And then my average rating for the month was a 3.69. So that's the breakdown of everything that I read this month, and we will go over these books. And now, where did we begin? What was the first book? Oh yes, so it was a very slow start to the month. I was on a trip to a board game convention, and me and my friend Andrea buddy listened to The Perfect Divorce by Geneva Rose. I feel like I can't super go into what this book was about because it is a sequel to a mystery. So to discuss what happens in this book would give away the ending of the first book. But my overall feelings for this book was it was very mediocre, very mid. I gave it 3 stars. I kind of was rolling my eyes. I was literally falling asleep listening to it. And like, it feels, most of the time with thriller sequels and stuff, they feel like a money grab. Like, that's what they are. The first book sold well, so the author was like, let me add to the story. It didn't feel necessary. The story felt complete without this book. We didn't need it. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was like, okay, I'm probably not really gonna think about it again. And that I don't think was in any sort of video. Then in an upcoming episode of Besties Picks My Reads from my friend Caitlin, she picked The Love Haters by Catherine Center, and I do have a super cute signed copy here. This is about our main character Katie, and she has been burned by love in the past, but now she's trying to make her career like go off. And then there's this guy Cole, or Hutch I mean, and Cole is it's her coworker Cole's brother, and Hutch is in the Coast Guard, and she has to go like film, basically get him to agree to do this documentary. Him and Cole don't have the best relationship, and so he sends Katie. The only struggle is like she doesn't know how to swim, she doesn't know how to do all of these things, so Hutch has to teach her. And yeah, it was pretty cute. I gave it 4 stars. Then for Besties Picks My Reads Madison's video, which is already up, I read The Wedding People by Allison Esbach, or Esbach, I don't really know how to say her last name. It doesn't really matter because I am unhauling this. I originally gave this 3 stars in that video, but the more I think about it, the more I don't like this book, and so I have downgraded it to a 2-star read. And that's just my truth. This is about our main character. Her name is Phoebe. This is a book where it's like, first off, there's very rich people. Half of it, everybody besides Phoebe is really rich people acting horrible with no consequences. One of my least favorite tropes. And then every character in this book is extremely unlikable. One of my other least favorite tropes. So basically in this, we've got Phoebe, and she is going to the Cornwall Inn, and she wants to go there as like, basically she feels like her life is falling apart, so she goes there to have like one final fancy night at this fancy hotel and then unalive herself. well, this hotel is pretty much every room besides the one she's rented has been rented out for this wedding. And when she runs into the bride's like, well, you can't like ruin my wedding weekend by doing that. Like, how could you do that to me? And I don't know. I just did not like anything about this. I did not think it was good, and it's gotta go. Another book that just has got to go. I actually don't know what I read this even for. I might have just read it. But, or this might have been for my like mood reading for the week video. This is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delilah Owens. This is also being unhauled. I gave this 2 stars. My review was, I wish I could say I even understand the hype of this book, but it was just so boring. And for every review that I saw that was bad, literally says that it's boring, and even the ones that say it's good say that it's boring until like 80%. And I just like, I'm not trying to read a book that's boring for that much of it. Basically, in this book, we have this girl, Kaya, and she's referred to as the Marsh Girl. She's basically been living alone in this home at the marsh. Her mother and siblings left when she was really young, and it was just her and her dad. She didn't go to school. She was bullied. Everybody thought she was like this weird freak of nature. And she just kind of like lives off the land, off grid in this marsh situation. So we have like present past timeline of her growing up, and then in 1969 a boy, Chase Andrews, is found dead, and everybody kind of suspects that it's the Marsh Girl Kaya who did it. I just didn't give a shit about a single character in this book, and it's got to get out of here. Then a book I don't have, boom, that I gave 5 stars that I got a skip the line copy of was Nice Girls Don't Win by Parvati Shallow. If you are a reality TV fan, I'm sure you know who Parvati is, specifically a Survivor fan. I think she's been on Survivor like 3 or 4 times. She's been on Traitors. She's been on Deal or No Deal Island. You name it, she's been there. And she's like referred to as the Black Widow. She's very famous for, in Survivor, the first season, she and a bunch of other women formed the Black Widow Alliance, and essentially they made it their mission to get all of the guys out. And at a very pivotal point of the game, in Survivor, people can get like an immunity necklace and you can't get voted out. She convinced this guy to give somebody else the immunity necklace, and then they voted him out. That's kind of where she's not a nice girl situation came from. But this book was so interesting. Learning that she essentially like grew up in a cult was kind of crazy, stuff that I absolutely had no idea about her, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars, big fan. Then I read Any Trope But You by Victoria Levine, and this was an Afterlife book. I actually read 3 of my Afterlife books. Whenever I get them in the mail, I immediately request the audio, and this is, I believe, in my mood reading vlog. But this I gave 4 stars. This is about this romance author named Margot, and she does not believe in happily ever afters. She has this secret like document where she basically trash talks, like a diary almost, a journal, everything about romance and how she doesn't like romance and she doesn't believe in romance, but she's this famous romance author. This secret diary basically gets published to the public, and now she's kind of being canceled for being fake and writing stories she doesn't believe in. So her sister kind of sends her to get like off grid and sends her to an Alaskan cabin to write a new book that's not a rom-com. However, she meets the male main character, what is his name? Forrest. And because he like owns these cabins, and somehow she keeps falling into every single trope. The only one bed trope, the snowed in trope. She's like, oh my god, what is happening? And he helps her remember like love, and it was pretty cute. I gave it 4 stars. After that, we have a 3-star read with Brain Damage by Frida McFadden. I don't really remember again what video this was in. My brain is, it's been a long month. But I did give this 3 stars. This is basically about this doctor, and her name is McKenna. And her name's Charlie McKenna, and she is a dermatologist, and her life's going pretty good until basically a home invasion happens and she gets shot in the head, and now she has brain damage. This book felt much more like a literary mystery than a thriller, which is fine. I just think it's mismarketed as a thriller. basically we're following Charlie. Her husband's kind of not present to help with any of these like things that have happened after she's been shot. He like doesn't visit her in the hospital, it's just her mom visiting. But she's in this rehabilitation center trying to like remember what happened. She's trying to regain the ability to walk, and we're really following Charlie go through the motions of trying to recover from this traumatic brain injury while not really knowing what happened. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay, not my favorite, but I'm not mad that I read it. Then I had a 4-star read for, this was in my Tattoos Picks My TBR video, I know that, and this is Scythe by Neil Schusterman. This is book 1 in the Scythe trilogy. I don't know that I'm going to continue the series. If I can find these cool collector's editions, maybe I will, but I don't feel like super drawn to continue on, unfortunately. I did give it 4 stars, but I just don't know that I like need more. But basically, this book is a dystopian future, like in the future book about, we follow 2 people, Citra and Rowan, for the most part. And essentially in this society, they've basically cured death. People don't die of natural causes anymore. And because of this basically, like, it's kind of referred to as like an AI cloud called the Thunderhead. They have come up with these things called the Scythes, which is a profession that people have, where it is your job to kill people, to keep a population under control. And the way you get selected to be a Scythe is like a Scythe decides that you're going to be their apprentice, and then you agree to be the apprentice, and then you have to do these trials at the end. So these 2 people, Citra and Rowan, are selected to try to become Scythes, be a Scythe's apprentice, and it's kind of like about that, we follow diary entries of a bunch of different Scythes. Some of them are super evil, but it's so interesting because they kind of look at statistics of before this dystopian age, and like, for example, like X% of deaths were of children, so they kill that percentage of children. X% of deaths were airplane crashes, so they'd make airplanes like, it's just very interesting. And then whenever they come to kill you, if you try to escape it or you do something, they'll kill your family type shit. But then if you like just take your death like willingly, they allow everybody in your like household to kiss their ring, which grants them immunity for the next year. So it's basically about this dystopian world, and I gave it 4 stars. After that, I read Love Theoretically. This is from my bookshelf scavenger hunt video. This is the last of these STEM novels by Allie Hazelwood. I think I've given Allie Hazelwood a lot of 3 stars. I think she's mainly a 3-star author for me. I did love the pink one, Not in Love, or no, Love on the Brain, and I loved Check and Mate. But this book, it felt kind of flat. I gave it 3 stars. This is about Elsie, and I don't even really remember this book, if I'm being so honest with you. Yes. It's about Elsie. She really wants this job, and she's applying for it. She has her like rival. It's like the same Kit Kat caboodle as all of these books are. She has the surface of pretending to be a fake girlfriend, and so she has a couple of regulars, and then she goes to interview for this job, and the guy that is interviewing her is one of the guys she's like a regular fake girlfriend for, his brother, and it makes things really complicated. And yeah, it's basically the TLDR of this one. I give it 3 stars. It was quite boring. Then I had book club pick, which our September book club pick is the new Stacey Willingham book, which is Forget Me Not, but this was our August pick, Till Summer Do Us Part by Megan Quinn. This book, I had a couple of people, specifically my friend Emily, who is like a doctor. She is a psychologist, and she hated this book because of how unethical it is, and I will stand 10 toes. It's very unethical, and if that's something you can't handle, I can understand you hating this book. I took it for what it was. I have the Target exclusive colorway, and I took it for what it was, and I had a hee hee ha ha time with it, you know what I mean? I thought the characters were really funny. The premise was super bizarre. So basically we have our main character, Scotty. It's female Scotty, and Scotty is working at this job, and everybody is like, she thinks they're like in this basically like a marriage cult. Basically she's bitter, she's getting divorced, and she feels like nobody includes her in work, so she ends up conjuring up this lie about being married. Everybody's like, no you're not, you don't wear a ring. She's like, well, we've been like going through it the past year, like whatever. Her boss pulls her to the side and it's like, oh, my husband's this renowned couples therapist, you should go see him, which already again is unethical. But she calls her friends and she's like, I don't know what to do, what am I gonna do? And then one of her best friends is like, you know what, my brother Wilder would probably do it. And we find out that Wilder is like this, he sold like this soda app, like this soda rating app, and so he's just kind of like rich and retired, but at like 27 and bored out of his mind. He agrees to do it. They go to the therapy, and then they're basically invited to go to this couples retreat, which is like $15,000. He pays for it because he's rich and doesn't care, and they go, and it's wild. And he's like, no, I'm gonna help you, we're gonna do this. And obviously they fall in love. It was a funny time, okay? It was a funny book. I gave it 4 stars. Back to my 3-star readings. This was for my mood reading vlog. I read Ruthless Vows by Veronica, that says Rebecca, by Rebecca Ross. This is another one where I can't really tell you what happens in this book because this picks up exactly where book 1 ends, and if I tell you that, then it'd be a spoiler. But I gave this 3 stars. I was quite disappointed in this. I gave Divine Rivals 4 stars, and I thought it was really interesting. I thought the pacing was amazing. I loved everything about, like, I just quite enjoyed it. I thought the pacing in this was horrible. It was so repetitive in the beginning and so boring, and I just didn't care about anything, and I gave it 3 stars. I'm gonna keep it, but it's not like stellar. And then I was reading books for a reading gifted books video, and I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is my second Ashley Herring Blake book, and I did like this a lot better than the first book I read by her, which was that Christmas one, Make the Season Bright. I think she writes primarily only sapphic romances, but this is about Delilah Green. She's this one here, like the baddie in the black outfit with the tattoos. And basically Delilah is a photographer, and she grew up in this town called Bright Falls. She feels kind of like a Cinderella in her situation. Her mom died, and then her dad got remarried, and she had her stepmom and her stepsister, and then her dad died. And not that they were like mean to her, but they didn't include her, and they made her very much so feel other. And so that stepsister, her name is Astrid, and she's actually who book 2, I believe, is about. She's getting married, and she has pressured Delilah into being the photographer for her wedding. Delilah agrees. She shows up, and her first night in town, she's at the bar, and this woman right here, her name is Claire. Claire kind of like approaches her at the bar, and she's like, oh my god, Claire Sutherland doesn't know who I am, because Claire is one of Astrid's best friends, and Delilah has known her since they were kids, and she was never like super nice to Delilah. Not that she was mean, but she like did not stand up for her. And so she's like, oh my god, I'm gonna try to sleep with her. My book fell. As I was saying, she's like, I'm gonna try to like get her to hook up with me, and Astrid's like, you're not her type, blah blah. She's like, girl, she hit on me at the bar, blah blah blah. But basically we have Astrid, no, we have Delilah and Claire and Iris and Claire are Astrid's best friends, and they kind of like aren't really sold on her marriage. She hasn't been with this guy very long. He doesn't seem like that great of a catch. So they kind of are all working together to break up this wedding, and they end up falling in love. It was pretty cute. Gave it 4 stars. Back to my mood reading vlog. I did read Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan, and I did give this 4 stars as well. This is about our main character, Nora, and basically she is going through a divorce. She's a screenwriter, and she's writing this play about, she wrote this, not play, this movie, this script that's basically based on her life and her marriage falling apart, and they're filming it at her house. The main male lead kind of wants to escape his reality and like through a series of things. He ends up staying at her house for a few weeks. They end up getting to know each other and falling in love. It was cute. I gave it 4 stars. Nothing to super write home about, but I did enjoy it. For my continuing series video, one of many that I film in this world, in this life, I finally read Taming 7, and this was a shocking revelation. I have given every book in the Boys of Tommen series 4 stars. I constantly say that they're a little bit repetitive, boring, too long. This is the shortest book in the series, and I did give it 5 stars. I did. I'm not sure how I'm gonna... The next one's the longest one, and it's about Lizzie, and Lizzie's such a fucking bitch in this book that I'm just like, I know that everybody's like, you read Releasing 10 and, is that what it's called? Yeah, Releasing 10 and you will like understand, but like, oh my god, she was horrible in this. But this is basically Claire and Gibbs's story. Tons of trauma, check your triggers, and I feel like Boys of Tommen has enough time on the internet. We don't need to keep talking about it. Then for my besties picks, my reads, Caitlin edition. Also, I do have one DNF here. I'll just show you this. This is Invisible Monsters Remix by Chuck Palahniuk. I just couldn't get into it, so I DNF'd it. This is Keep It in the Family by John Mars. This was pretty creepy, I will admit. This is the book that has the famous chapter... what chapter is it? 32, maybe? No, 39? That was 30 something. Yeah, the famous chapter 39 where the whole chapter is just fuck. But this is about our main couple, Mia and Finn. They've been struggling with infertility for years. Her mother-in-law is kind of like a bitch about it and is acting like he should still be with his ex-girlfriend because she would at least give him a child, blah, 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 blah. They've been kind of living with their in-laws even though they suck for a while because they've been looking to buy a house, and they finally buy one right after they buy a like dilapidated house basically, and they're fixing it up to be their dream home. She unexpectedly falls pregnant, and as they're cleaning out the house, they go up in the attic and they see written on, like, or they go into one of the rooms and they see scored into the floorboard, "I will save them from the attic." And then they go up in the attic and they find some fucked up shit. I'm gonna let you read the book and find that out. But basically, in the wake of that happening, Mia, goes into, has the baby prematurely. And she is trying to, she's very fixated on what happened in her house, mixed with postpartum depression. And yeah, it was crazy. I give that 4 stars. Highly recommend. I definitely want to get more books by John Mars. Another 5-star read. I finished out the Rebel Blue Ranch series, Wild and Wrangled, which is Camille's story. I think this is my second least favorite. I think my first favorite is book 2, then book 3, then book 4, then book 1. But books 2, 3, and 4 were all 5 stars. So this is basically Camille's story this is Camille and Dusty's story, and Camille is Riley's mom. Camille and Gus from book 3, they have a kid together, and she's the mom, and it's like a single mom trope, and basically it's about her and her high school love. You get their time when they first met when they were kids and teenagers, and it was very much so right person, wrong time, and it was so good. 5 stars. Then we had a 3-star read, If You Tell a Lie by Miss Lucinda Berry. 3-star read. This is, I just don't like this type of thriller where it's like, oh, what happened that summer and we're gonna go back and figure it out. But basically, this is about these friends at a summer camp, and something happened, and now years later they're not in contact with each other anymore. They get a letter in the mail. Basically, they each get a letter in the mail threatening to reveal what happened, and so then they come together to try to figure out who sent it and what's going on. 3 stars. It's going to be also in my besties picks, my reads, my friend Caitlin's picks. Then continuing series, I continued on with this series. What's this called? The Dream Harbor series. Book 3 is The Christmas Tree Farm, which I did give 4 stars. This is by far my favorite book in the series, for sure the least spicy. This is about Kira North, and she does show up, I believe, at the end of book 2. She has purchased this Christmas tree farm in Dream Harbor, but she is not trying to integrate herself into this small town, which kind of makes the small town hate her. And she does not like Christmas, even though she just bought this Christmas tree farm. And then we have our male main character. His name is Bennett. He's on vacation in Dream Harbor, trying to take a break from his life. And he and Kira basically start to fall in love, and he helps her integrate herself into the town, and it was pretty good. Then for my mood reading, I did do a reread of my favorite book of all time. We tabbed her on up, we wrote in her. We had an amazing time. This is my favorite book of all time. It's called The Measure by Nikki Erlich, and this is a dystopian book that is basically set in the modern world, but one day pretty much everybody just over the age of 22 wakes up with a box on their front door that says, it's like inscribed, I think I actually tabbed what it was. Yep, it's inscribed with "The measure of your life lies within." And inside the box, everybody has a string of a different length. At first, nobody knows what these strings mean. Then they come to realize through different things that this string dictates how long your life is going to be, no matter what you do. If you have like a string that's super long, and eventually they like come out with technology where you can like measure your string, put it in, and it'll spit out like the month you're gonna die. So like if your string's super long and you have like a bunch of medical problems, or like you have cancer, or you have this, you have that, it's like you know that you're gonna be fine. So people are like that are going through stuff can sometimes become less stressed. Or you could be completely healthy, but you have a short string and you're like running to the hospital, like find out what's wrong with me, like I'm gonna die soon. But and we follow I think 8 different characters, and yeah, it's just an amazing time. It's the best book ever. Yeah, we follow 8 different points of view, and I highly recommend if you haven't read it. Amazing. I finished out the Well Met series with Well Traveled, which I gave every book in this series 4 stars. This one was so fun. This is about Lulu, who is cousins with the male main character in the book prior, and she is this like high power attorney, but she's kind of sick of being passed over for men in her job, and she's told like every year like, oh, next year you're gonna be like promoted, oh but next year, oh but next year, and the year never comes, and she's kind of over it. So she quits her job and decides that she makes these friends at a Ren fair, and she's just gonna start traveling with them. She ends up like working with the like tarot card readers and doing all this like super fun stuff, and it's really about her finding herself in her own passion as well as love. Super cute. Then I started a new series. This is called the Sugar Lake series by Emily McIntyre. This is book 1, Beneath the Stars, and I did give this 3 stars. I did find this book kind of disappointing. This is about Alina, and Alina and Chase were kind of like childhood friends to lovers. Well, this is like a second chance childhood friends to lovers situation, where basically they met when they were young. He was dealing with a lot of stuff at home. He is a foster child who was adopted. His mother was an addict. His sister is an addict. It's like he's dealing with a lot, and so he doesn't want to be super open with Alina, but they end up falling in love anyway, and then he goes off to college. Things happen, they end up breaking up, and now we go to the present timeline where he's coming back to this small town to take over his dad's business, and they reconnect. The thing with this is like Alina, Chase, and then I think his name was Jax were like a group of 3 friends, but like Jax also liked Alina, like had a thing for her, and it's really like it gives love triangle, and I was not rooting for Chase. I did not want them to be together. I think he kind of treated her like shit all the time. And there is something significant that happens in this book. It's a significant plot point. I'm not going to spoil it. But it's something that like I have dealt with, in the way he handled it was disgusting. And so I just was never rooting for him. I have the rest of the series. I'm going to continue. I hope, because I think one of the books is actually Jax's story, and he's a sweet lover boy, so I'm happy to continue on with that. Then I read another memoir. This is for an upcoming nonfiction reading vlog, and This is called Fahrenheit 182. This is Mark Hoppus, the lead singer and bass player of Blink-182's memoir. This was very interesting. I gave it 4 stars. This basically starts at the beginning of them creating the band, a lot of before their first really big break of the band, what happened while they were broken up, like him and Travis finding Matt to come replace Tom, and so on and so forth. And then towards the end, I listened to this on audio, so that's like actually so funny. Towards the end, it gets into, if you guys did not know, during COVID times, around 2020, Mark actually was diagnosed with cancer. And so we go through hearing his story about dealing with cancer and all the things that he went through and how it actually helped bring the band back together. So that was really sweet. I liked that a lot, and I do actually have a signed copy, baby. So that's pretty cool. Pretty sick nasty. Then I read a book in what I am deeming one of my favorite small town romances that is super underappreciated on the internet because I've never heard anybody talk about it. I literally bought book 1 in this series because I thought it was cute, the cover and the sprayed edges, and then I was like, well, I have to buy the whole series because I want to get them all to have the sprayed edges, and if I wait, then they might not sell the ones with the spray, you know. But it worked out because I gave book 1 like a really high 4, and then this book, despite having so many things I hate, 5 stars. That's how you know it's good. Way spicier than I want a book to be. Tropes that I hate. It's like a celebrity bodyguard romance. I hate that vibe, but nonetheless. This is about the boy, his name is Xander, and the girl, her name is Kelly. And Kelly is a country sensation who goes by Pixie Heart when she is a performer, and she kind of wants a break from it all. She feels like she's not being heard by her record label. She's not allowed to sing the songs she wants. She's not allowed to write her own songs. She is just basically a vehicle for the record company to do what they want. She's over it. She's over them pushing this narrative of her and this guy being together, and she just kind of wants a break. So she books this trip to go to this cabin, and her brother calls up his friend Xander. Mind you, she also has recently fired everybody on her security team because there was like a breach where they were selling stories about her to the paparazzi. So she fired everybody. Her brother is a Navy SEAL, and he calls his friend Xander, who's an ex-Navy SEAL, to go be her bodyguard. Xander kind of owes her brother because he saved his life, and so he's like, yep, absolutely, I will go do it. So he shows up, and she's like, you're fired, I don't want you there. And he's like, I don't really care, I owe your brother a favor, I will sleep outside, but I'm not leaving. And eventually she lets him in because it's like a rainy night, and then he's kind of like showing her small town life. She ends up like going to like a family barbecue and this, that, and the other thing, and they fall in love, and it was really, really cute, and I gave it 5 freaking stars. The most disappointing series to me is this one, the Love Light Farm series by B.K. Borison. I'm finally done with it. I gave one book in the series 4 stars, but it's overall a 3-star series. I've given every other book 3 stars, and I think they're quite boring. This is about Nova, and she is a tattoo artist, and she basically, her brother is kind of put like a lot of pressure on her by like being overly supportive, and so she feels like she is not allowed to fail. She's opening up a tattoo shop in Love Light Farms. It's her first time opening her own business, and she's scared. And so then there's this guy Charlie, and they have worked together like in the professional setting, but they've always kind of had like sexual tension, so they're like, let's just sleep together once and it'll be all good. And it's obviously never all good. I gave it 3 stars. The whole series, though, is so beyond mid. Another book that I read, which is going to be for an upcoming cowboy romance video, was Love is a War Song. And I do want to point out that this is amazing. This is a Native American author, and it is a story about Native American people, which is not something that we get a lot of. At least I have not seen a lot of, and I absolutely loved that. I did give it 3 stars. It felt YA. Do you know what I mean? Like, the story felt very YA to me. It felt like I was reading the Hannah Montana movie or Flicka, which is so funny because in the author's note she references the movie Flicka, which is so funny. So anywho, this book is about Avery, and she's a pop star, and she sings a lot of songs about being Native American, but she does not have any attachment to her Native roots. And she's doing things that are quite disrespectful to the Native culture, like sexualizing their traditional wardrobe and things like that. And So a lot of people are calling her like fake native and that she's not registered, so she's not real, and being very like hateful towards her. So her mother is shipping her off. Mind you, her mom is estranged from her own mother, but her mom's sending her off to her family's ranch in Oklahoma called Red Fox Ranch, where she's met by one of the ranch hands, Lucas Iron Eyes. He picks her up from the train station, and she and he sort of don't like each other. He hates what she's been doing and how she's been making the Native community look. Also, can we look at how beautiful this naked hardcover is? Ugh, so good. I love Afterlight. But yeah, so she, through this, is learning about her Native roots and her Native family, as well as trying to mend the relationship between her mother and grandmother. It was a sweet book. I gave it 3 stars. It's just not one that I'm ever really going to think about again. I accidentally skipped this one because this is definitely, was way before that. Oh yeah, this was after Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I read Love and Focus by Lila Lee. Again, a stunning naked hardcover. This is a sapphic romance about Gemma and Celeste. Gemma and Celeste dated in college. They broke up because Celeste, right? No. Gemma moved out of the country. We find out why within the book, but because of that, they ended up breaking up. So now Gemma is working as like an editor for like a magazine, and Celeste is an editor for a magazine here, and Gemma is a photographer, and they need to work together to collaborate on this project and figure out, talk about, uncover, heal some things that happened in their previous relationship. So that was very sweet. Then we have 2 more books that I own, and then 2 more that I don't own. So then I read Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is book 2 in Chestnut Springs series. I'm glad that I liked this. I gave this 4 stars. I gave book 1 3 stars. Not my favorite small town romance or cowboy romance. I just don't personally think that contemporary romance for the most part needs to be over 400 pages. It's really hard for me, besides Mariana Zapata, to give them 5 stars because it's not slow burn. Like, another thing is this had 3 chapters back to back that were just 3 chapters that were just spice for 3 chapters straight. And like, again, I gave Hideaway Heart 5 stars even though there was more spice than I would like, but it was broken up by plot. This was just like some parts I'm just like, oh my god. And this book reminded me of book 1 in this series, which is called Runaway Love, and I like Runaway Love better. But this was addicting. Elsie Silver's writing is very captivating, and this is about Cade and Willa. And Willa is friends with Cade's sister, who is the female lead, Summer, in the other book, and the first book, and Willa is Summer's best friend, and Cade basically is a single dad, and he needs somebody to watch his son Luke over the summer. The woman who he's like entrusted for years was his childhood babysitter, but she's kind of getting too old to race after his kid, so he basically ends up hiring Willa. She's like 25 and he's like 38, and he's like, oh, it's like this big deal, blah blah blah. And the kid was actually so cute in this, but they end up falling in love, obviously, as a romance. And then 2-star read was The Temporary Roomie by Sarah Adams. My least favorite Sarah Adams book ever. I'm gonna keep it because I have a shrine to her books. But this is about our main character, Jessie. She's the salon owner. She is a side character in book 1 in this duology. She is unexpectedly pregnant, and she ends up moving in with the brother of the female main character who works at her salon, and it's very convoluted. But he's like a male gynecologist, and right there you already kind of like lost me. And he like constantly talks about how he's like so hot, and like he has a tattoo, but he can never get one that's visible because he's already like so hot. It makes his job so hard because he's like so hot, and his like patients just can't handle it. And I'm just like, ew. So I give it 2 stars. I did not really like it. Then 2 books I don't own. One is Tusk Love by Thea Guanzon, which is a book that is made by like the Critical Role team, where essentially this book was like became canon in their actually I gotta go make Chris lunch. Okay, so basically Tusk Love, I gave 3 stars. It is basically in Critical Role's most recent campaign 3. There became the storyline that somebody's character, I think it was Marisha's character, was like reading these smutty orc romance novels, and so they made the novel that her character was reading. into a book, and it's about her main character Guinevere. She's kind of like royal status. She's like a commoner girl, but she has these powers that people don't really understand, and her father basically sells her hand to this noble guy, and it's kind of giving Shrek, where the orc guy, Oscar, was that his name? Something with it. Yeah, Oscar, basically has to bring her to her betrothed. And it was a cute time. I gave it 3 stars. And then the last book I read was The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie, which, if you are unaware of the whole 8 Passengers YouTube channel, that situation, educate yourself, because it's kind of a lot, and I'm not going to go deeply into it, but it's basically Sherry's memoir of her life and dealing with having a mother like Ruby Frankie. And one thing I thought was so powerful about this book was she talked strictly about her situation, whereas a lot of the media, when the case was going on, was talking a lot about her underage siblings, and she didn't want to bring anybody who was not of age to consent to their story being told into her story. She talked about her older brother, she's the oldest, but the next oldest is her brother Chad, who he has been named in the public. He has spoken out. She named him, but any of her underage siblings, she did not speak of by name or speak of the horrors that they endured at the hands of their mother in detail. And I just thought it was so powerful, like how moving her book was without having to exploit other people. And yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was brilliant. And that is everything, you guys. So those are all the books that I read this month. What is my favorite book I read this month? I think it is tied between, oh, that's a lie. This would obviously have to be my favorite. It's my favorite book of all time. But if we're not counting rereads, one of these two. But that's everything, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!